Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where we are here to talk about the upcoming launch this evening of SpaceX CRS-4. This is the pre-launch news conference, and we have some folks who will be talking about the space station and its readiness for the arrival, as well as the launch vehicle, and we'll be talking about the weather forecast. Pleased to be joined by telephone by NASA's Deputy Director or Deputy Program Manager for the International Space Station Program, Dan Hartman. And here with us from SpaceX, Mr. Hans Koenigsmann, the Vice President of Mission Assurance, and Kathy Winters, our Launch Weather Officer from the 45th Weather Squadron of the U.S. Air Force.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right, so what we'll do is get some opening remarks from each of the presenters, and then we'll take questions and answers, and we'll start off with Mr. Hartman. Dan?
All right, thank you, Mike, and good morning from Houston. Let's see, it's great to see the progress that SpaceX has made in processing this important mission for us. We have a very aggressive schedule in front of us over the next 6 weeks on ISS, and it starts with this mission early tomorrow morning. Presently, we're on schedule with our late load payload processing with the Dragon. We've got cold bags loaded. We've integrated and powered up the CGBA and the Glacier payload, and those have checked out fine. We're getting good data signatures from those payloads. We still have the mice to load, but we still have several hours to get that on the vehicle and maintain schedule. So we're in good shape with our late load. Once we launch and then we get berth, we'll immediately begin to host the research on the ISS. We'll transfer the 20 mice to the ISS and get those integrated with our Express Rack and keep them healthy. As you know, Dragon has uniquely developed an Equus capability for us to develop or for us to launch the mice, and you'll see us taking advantage of that on several upcoming SpaceX missions as well. So SpaceX 4, we imagine we'll fly animals up on SpaceX 6 as well. We'll also be transferring the rapid scat experiment from the Dragon trunk and robotically installing it on the Columbus module, where I'll be measuring the ocean winds and directions, and with all the intent to improve our weather forecasting, including in hurricanes. About midway through the mission, with the recovery of our planned EVA capability following the water in the helmet mishap, we have 2 EVAs planned for October 7th and October 15th. We do require new batteries to be flown up, and a set of batteries are manifested on this mission, SpaceX 4, and we have another set flying up on the Soyuz on 40S. So that'll give us a prime and a redundant capability to support our EVA tasks. Major tasks we're going to do on the EVAs is, several months back we had a failure of our 3A array sequential shunt units, and so we'll be performing an R&R on that. We have an external pump that's presently stowed on the MSS. It's the pump that failed in December, and so we need to move it over onto an external storage platform, so we'll be taking care of that as well. And then we'll be changing out numerous external lights and stanchions, and some of these are required to support, this is where we're starting to get into reconfiguring the space station to support our commercial crew vehicles that will be coming, docking to Node 2 forward into the Zenith ports. Subsequent missions will be carrying up our docking adapters and our new proximity communications unit to take care of the capabilities that we need on the station for the commercial crew program. We expect to get that work, the hardware configuration, performed on the ISS by the end of 2015. So we've got a lot of hardware flying, and then we needed to conduct some additional EVAs to install it. So we're on track for that. As I mentioned, pretty complex over the next 6 weeks or so. The Russians also have an EVA planned up for October 21st, where they plan to remove several external experiments and some antenna assemblies. Overall, on board, we're in good shape with consumables. Food is good through June of next year. We have another month's worth of supplies on SpaceX 4. And so, like I said, overall consumables, the program's in very good shape. Total cargo on this mission is about 1,650 kilograms with 750 kilograms of research, and then our return manifest is 1,475 kilograms with 950 kilograms of research returning. We're looking forward to return to the crew of 6 with the launch of 40S, carrying Barry, Alexander, and Alina. I understand Soyuz launch preparations are going smoothly in Baikonur for the launch on September 25th. So we're looking forward to that. And then if we look on the station and its readiness to support this mission, we're in great shape. We've done the system checkouts that we need to do. Systems are ready. Crews trained. Crews ready to go with robotic ops. And so we're really looking forward to for the launch early tomorrow morning. And with that, I will turn it over to Hans.
All right, thanks, Dan. Yeah, I guess from our side, I can add that we are also ready to go. We performed the static fire test a couple of days ago on Falcon 9, which went very well. I think actually it was 2 days ago. We did some review of the data after that, and we had some readiness reviews, which concluded that we're good to go. There's some open work. As Dan mentioned, we're loading cargo right now. I want to say this CRS-4 mission has become somewhat of a routine, I would say cautious routine, because obviously we got to be super careful that everything is reliable and working well and checked out and triple checked again. But I also sense that by now we're doing more and more experiments. We're bringing up expensive hardware. We know that this is transitioning in a routine cargo taxi basically along the way. I hope we demonstrate all our reliability on time and bringing these experiments up in a reliable and safe fashion. I can walk you a little bit through the mission. It's very similar to the last one. The first stage will burn for about 160 seconds. When it burns out, we separate the stages, and you will see the second stage ignite. And then while the second stage burns, you can also see that the first stage performs maneuvers. As basically we still continue to optimize and refine our reusability for the first stage. The second stage burns. After it burns for 40 seconds, we will deploy the nose cone on Dragon. The nose cone protects the PCBM adapter on the forward end. It burns out after about 9 minutes total and deploys Dragon basically in its orbit. And then Dragon is on its way to the station. The insertion orbit is 200 by 360 kilometers, similar to slightly higher actually on the apogee than the last one, but same type orbit basically under the station. We will phase for about 2 days and then begin climbing up on the arbor. My understanding right now is for a launch on for the first launch opportunity, that is the Saturday morning launch. It will be a 48-hour turnaround. I'm not sure what it is on the second one, but it's going to be somewhat similar. It's always between 1 day and 2 days, basically. That's how we pick them. I'm actually really excited. This is a very challenging mission in terms of cargo, in terms of experiments on board, up and down. So I'm really looking forward to perform this mission.
Thank you, Hans. Kathy.
Well, good morning. The weather certainly does look interesting over the next several hours. We're going to have an upper-level trough that's digging down into the eastern U.S. and down into Florida. And there's also a jet maximum that's moving through Mississippi and Alabama that's going to be digging that trough a little bit deeper. We're expecting to get some showers, some rain in the area this afternoon, possibly some isolated thunderstorms that could linger into the evening. And as that jet maximum enters the base of that trough, what tends to occur when this happens is a low-pressure area will form. We're expecting that to occur offshore. We do expect a lot of showers offshore this evening. The question mark will be how much of that will wrap around into the coast. So that's what we're dealing with weather. We do have a 50% chance of weather launch commit criteria violation this evening in the early morning hours at T0, and that is associated with that weather offshore possibly wrapping around back into the area. So we're expecting a chance for a thick cloud violation and also a flight through precipitation violation. Looking at the satellite picture, I can show you that the trough, you can see all the weather that's right now in the Panhandle area and in the northern Gulf of Mexico. That is what is being generated by that jet maximum moving through the jet stream. That's going to be digging in to Florida this afternoon, evening, increasing our chance for showers and even a potential thunderstorm. As we get into the overnight hours, we're expecting more rain in the area than we are lightning. So our primary concern is going to be what wraps around from offshore with that low pressure area forming. Initially, the Hurricane Center, the last few days they actually had been calling for a 20% chance of that low after it developing into a tropical cyclone. But they actually backed off this morning and brought that down to 0% chance. And I think that's because it's all associated with an upper level low, and usually those don't develop into tropical systems, or if they do, it takes several days, and by then that low will be tracking off to the northeast and moving away and caught up in more of an upper level system, which keeps it from being more tropical. So right now it just looks like it'll cause some weather up the northeast coast, but not an issue for us as it moves away just this evening as it initially develops. Looking at the forecast for launch, you can see that we do have some cloud cover expected, of course, with that weather that will be in the area. Scatter conditions at 3,000 feet. We do have a ceiling expected at 13,000 feet and then overcast at 25,000 feet. But visibility, as long as we're not getting too much rain at the moment of launch, should be good at 6 miles. With winds from the east-northeast, 12 gusting to 17 miles per hour. We do expect rain showers to be in the area, temperature around 74 degrees. And again, the concern is for thick clouds in the area and also for flight through precipitation. We do have a 50% chance of LCC violation. If we do happen to delay 24 hours, that low pressure area will be moving further off to the northeast and weather will improve. Just a couple of cloud layers there scattered at 3,000 and broken at 20,000 feet, meaning a ceiling or more than 50% cloud coverage. Visibility will be up to 7 miles by then, not really expecting a lot of weather in the area, just more isolated showers. Winds will shift around to be more from 300 degrees, 8 peaking to 12 miles per hour, not significant, with the temperature at 73 degrees. And the weather improves, as you can see, the number decreases to a 30% chance of lightning launch commit criteria violation and also launch commit criteria violation for the user. So thick cloud rule violation, also flight through precipitation. Again, the same concerns, but lesser because that low is moving off. So overall, looks like tonight will be a little bit of a challenge for us, but there's a chance we could get some good weather if that moisture offshore doesn't move onshore. And that concludes the weather briefing. Unless there's any questions.
Thanks, Kathy. Okay, we'll take questions here. We have members of the traditional media as well as social media members attending the NASA Social. I would ask that you please wait for the microphone. State your name and affiliation, and especially with Dan Hartman on the telephone, please let us know to whom you're addressing your question. We'll start off with Marcia Dunn.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press for Mr. Hartman in Houston. If you don't get off by Sunday, when does your schedule allow SpaceX to try again? And how many of the new batteries are going to be aboard Dragon? Because you said a set of batteries, but I didn't know how many that included and whether that's just one battery per suit or does each suit require a couple?
Sure, Marcia. Let's see. So our prime launch attempts are the 20th and 21st, as mentioned. We've been working aggressively to get a next launch attempt on the 23rd, and we think that is viable. We got some additional work to do with looking at some crew time and the proximity of that mission and its birthing date with the Soyuz. But we think that's going to be workable. We haven't potted that yet. If we scrub tonight, we'll probably request SpaceX ask for the range to pick up the 23rd, and so I imagine that will be a viable date. Then we would need to stand down for the Soyuz operations, and the next time we would pick up would be on the 28th. As far as batteries, we have we had the fuse issue with the existing EVA batteries that are on board. We have changed those fuses out. Teams did a great job. We have two batteries that are flying up on this mission, and 2 batteries that are flying up on the Soyuz. 1 battery per suit, so that gives us primary redundant for the 2. A good battery for each of the 2 crew members going out, and then we also have backups. So each suit takes the 1 battery.
Ken.
Hi, Ken Kramer for Universe Today and America Space. I have 2 questions for Hans, please. First, can you give us a reaction to winning the CCP award? And second, what Dan mentioned, and is also in your press kit here, you are bringing up the first in-house designed Eclipse system. Can you tell us some details about that, please?
First question response to CCTCAP is a big smile. And it's obviously a huge responsibility for SpaceX and our team. It's a lot of work, but we are obviously totally delighted to be on that team and provide human spaceflight capability back to America. Second question, I don't think I have a lot of details on the life support system. We developed it in-house, we tested it in-house. So far, from what I can tell, everything is working fine, and I do hope the mice will enjoy it.
Irene.
Thanks. Irene Klotz with Reuters. Also for Hans, can you talk a little bit about the what it's taken for you guys to turn around and do 2 launches within 2 weeks, and if this is an anomaly or if this is the sort of pace that you're going to need to be doing for all the commercial missions, NASA missions, military missions, everything. And then also if you could just address a little bit about what, if anything, you plan to do on the Falcon first stage reuse landing. Thanks.
Sure, it's a good question. We had, if we fly tonight, or tonight, it's basically a 13-day turnaround, I believe, and obviously that's faster than we have ever done it. It's near the record at the Cape, actually. I think the fastest one was in 65 or 67. There were 2 missions that were even faster than that. So obviously, what you need to do is you need to be able to parallel process the vehicles, and they come in from Texas, from our test. We have certain things to do, we have certain checkouts to do, and we basically do this on the next vehicle while we're actually processing the other vehicle in the hangar on the launch site. So the system, or the crew is doing a fabulous job to doing these 2 vehicles in parallel. In the future, actually, I anticipate that this will be the norm. So we were ramping up for that launch rate, and actually even more than that. And again, the key is a competent crew, obviously, and a parallel process. From my perspective, I don't want to say it's easier to do this, but it's certainly, if you launch every 2 weeks, you still remember what to do from the last launch. So it has a little bit of it's slightly easier to do this, frankly. The second question was regarding first stage. So first stage will perform a bunch of maneuvers again. And in fact, on this one, we target a certain landing area. And we will do an earlier burn, which is called the boost back burn. However, it is not going to be a boost back. And that's very important. This is not a boost back mission. It will land down range, but it will land slightly to the side. It will also perform an entry burn like the last missions, and it will perform a landing burn like the last missions. It's pitch dark out there, so it's going to be hard to see, but we can see on telemetry how the landing goes. There's a telemetry boat out there. We don't anticipate to recover the first stage like the last ones, but we do anticipate to get data. And I want to actually point out all these landings and all these burns on the first stage. All of this is secondary objective. So what really counts is the ascent and the mission to NASA. I want to say experiments we do after that with the first stage are completely non-mission critical, and as such, not relevant for the mission. I do understand the interest, though.
James?
Thanks, James. Dame Flora today. One for, or question for Hans and one for Dan, I think. So Hans, just looking forward a little bit, what's on your manifest after this mission, and is it still the case that on the next flight after this one, you want to try to bring the booster back onto a hard surface? If so, or whenever you're doing that, what is that surface, and where will that be?
Okay, so I got to say, it's going to be in one of the next missions. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be exactly the next mission. That's a little bit in the air right now. But it's going to be in one of the next missions, and we're working actively with range safety to make this safe and also reliable in terms of public safety, obviously, because you're now bringing a vehicle back to the range, and you need to consider public safety, obviously. What type of landing point it's going to be, So I'm not sure I understood the question.
Were you not looking at something like a barge or something on the water that would be more stable than the water you're landing in?
Okay, we still, I think that is still a trade we're doing, whether a barge is a possibility and in the future, but I don't think that's the one of the upcoming missions right now.
James, did you have a question for Dan? Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, and Dan, we were just talking about SpaceX's turnaround time, and I wondered if you could speak to the issue of these kind of like cadence of these CRS missions that's been discussed for a while in terms of getting a more sort of regular routine, if you will, flow of those missions. Do you feel like you're there, or kind of maybe next year, or where you're at?
Yeah, and I would say getting there. You know, I think very challenging. The SpaceX 4, it's actually SpaceX 3 and SpaceX 4. We made major modifications to the Dragon, right? So that was a lot of work that they had to get behind them. As far as our requested modifications, let's say on SpaceX and orbital, I think that has all stabilized. So, if we look at SpaceX 4 here, we're looking to get SpaceX 5 off, and then we'll have an Orb 3 mission. Middle of October, SpaceX 5 in December, and then another SpaceX, let's say February, March, Orb following that. And so, to me, yeah, we've worked out a lot of bugs in the system, both on our side and on the vehicle processing, and both companies are learning along the way. We're trying to keep our payload throughput up so we can support this increased cadence, but I think we're well on our way, and we're looking forward to it, quite honestly, because stable access and stable return of our research is key to those folks.
Go ahead.
Hi, Jared Hayworth of Spaceflight Insight. This is a question for Hans. Could you talk to us a little bit more about transporting the mice? Are they going to be traveling in their own sort of sealed, pressurized, isolated environment, or will they be relying on, for lack of a better word, Dragon's own life support? And how does this sort of impact further developments for supporting larger organisms like humans?
So I haven't met the mice yet, but I will on the way out swing by the pad and take a look, hopefully. But they have their own enclosure. It's called the animal enclosure within Dragon, and the life support system is attached to that particular enclosure. So Dragon, if you were to sit in Dragon outside the animal enclosure, you would not have a life support system. I hope that answers your question.
Megan Gannon with Space.com. Hans, you mentioned that this particular cargo was challenging, and I was hoping you could elaborate on some of the reasons why that was.
Oh, I think, obviously, in the environmental control system and life support system is a challenging piece of hardware. That's what I was primarily referring to. And then I must say, these trunk payloads, I think they're pretty amazing. Because at the end of the day, you can bring things up that the shuttle brought up. They're bigger. They're complicated pieces of equipment. They have a size of it's a sizable payload basically. I'm trying to figure out what the size can be, but the trunk size is 12 feet diameter and several feet tall. So small couch maybe, and I can see these are payloads that have not been developed in the last year, but they've been developed over a long time. Yeah, so they are complicated and challenging payload in general. That's basically what my comment was. And then obviously, having the robotic arm go into the trunk, pull it out, and putting it somewhere on the station, I think is really interesting. So.
Okay.
Hello, Matthew Coons from NASA Social, and my question's for Hans. So, as you're prepping the rockets for flight, you're doing additional prep for your landing tests. How much complexity does that add to the overall process?
It does and it doesn't really. These are separate teams. The one team is going through the rigorous review process that we always have, and and we make very sure that the landing software and the landing mission profile does not have any effect on the main mission. We make sure that we have enough propellant for the main mission for all the dispersions on that. So I would say it's minimal to non-existent in terms of impact on the main mission. That definitely was one of the goals, to not have any negative impact on the main mission. That's very important for us.
In the front row over here.
It's James Denton, Spaceflight Insider. For Hans, we're SpaceX, you're developing the V2 right now. Is there any set time for the launch escape system that you guys have, like the pad abort or the in-flight? Do you guys know when you're going to do that, or if it's Florida, Houston? Has that been determined yet?
So I know we're working on the vehicle right now, basically on the I think it's called pad abort system or pad abort test, and it's going to be by the end of this year. I don't have a launch or basically I don't have an abort date at this point in time, but that's roughly the time frame. I think so. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Irene?
Thanks. Irene Klotz with Reuters. For Hans, I wanted to know if the investigation that SpaceX did following the Falcon 9R test issue that delayed the AsiaSat 6?
6, yes.
6 launch. Is there anything that you found in the course of that impacted that flight and this flight? And also, if the decision to leave off the landing legs has something to do with the short turnaround between AsiaSat 6 and CRS-4? Thanks.
So regarding the F9R DEF, that's actually the full name, mishap that we had in Texas. We jumped on an investigation immediately. We figured out the root cause, we know what it was, and then we made really sure that there's nothing on Falcon 9 that could possibly have any impact in a similar fashion. And we established that pretty quickly. We know that when we had a transducer block, basically, and if that happens on Falcon 9, there's various vehicle loading schemes and redundancies, so that this actually has no impact on Falcon 9. That was established pretty quickly. What made us hesitate was just the overall, is there anything behind that, and what happens in fault scenarios, any hidden scenario, or any corner case when you can have negative impacts. And so I want to say it made us rethink certain things. We went through a lot of software and tests in that time frame. We did not identify any major issues in that week. I think it was time well spent to just triple check and reliability on the F9 vehicle. So a good lesson learned from that perspective. What was your second question again?
About leaving off the landing legs.
Oh, the landing legs. This is purely based on the way the manifest worked out. We reshuffled, and by the time CRS was on that vehicle, it had no landing legs, and we just decided to leave it off, basically. Yeah.
Yes, this is Ciro Villa from NASA Social Media. Question for Mr. Hans. I'm interested in the development of the manned program, of course. Has SpaceX already developed any kind of simulation facility on the ground where astronauts can train, I guess, to prepare for it? Are we at that stage yet, or have you not yet developed functioning simulators on the ground? Thanks.
So we've been working on Crew Dragon for a while. I don't particularly. I'm not really involved in that development. I can tell you, yes, there are simulators, and in fact, I've tried it, but and it's really fun, I must say. But so yes, we are working all the aspects on Crew Dragon, and it's from what I can tell, it's impressive how far the team got, and I'm absolutely delighted that we're actually gonna use that and apply it.
Ken.
Hi, Ken Kramer, America Space for Hans again. Can you give us an update, please, on the progress for the Falcon Heavy and your work to when it might launch and your work to modify Pad 39A that you're now leasing? Thanks.
You know, you put me on the spot here a little bit. I know the work is going on, and I know that they're actually cutting hardware at this point in time. I have not looked at the design, and I do know that the work at LC-39 is also, marching, but I don't know the launch date at this point in time. It's probably on the manifest, and we can probably get you that date. Obviously, Falcon Heavy is a huge step for SpaceX too. It's parallel work with Crew Dragon and Falcon Heavy and everything at the same time. I was planning to actually swing by LC-39 and take a look on the way back to the vehicle later today. I'm always amazed by that launch site, by the way. It's really an honor to launch Falcon Heavy from that particular special launch site.
Marcia.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press for Hans. Looking ahead to the first test flight, crew test flight of the version 2 Dragon, will SpaceX employees be on board? And if so, how would you choose?
I don't know how we choose yet, frankly. My understanding is yes, there will be a mixed crew between SpaceX and NASA, but I don't think I have any details at this point in time. A lot of work has to happen, and certainly this is one of the things that keeps me going, to be on, on the team that helps getting this vehicle off the ground.
Over here in the front row.
Hi, Trevor Moman from social media. Dan mentioned major changes done to Dragon, comparing CRS-3 and 4. Could you talk about some of those changes? And with the manifest not working out, CRS-4 does not have the legs or the beefy thrusters to control the roll. What is the probability that you will have a good landing of the first stage?
So, all right, major changes. I think there were some changes. We had some hardware upgrades on the avionics side, I believe, and we had some different mounting points on some of the hardware. It moved from the inside in the pressure capsule to the outside, but I don't think there were grand changes. Yeah. There were mostly refinements and I would say improvements. I don't think there was a major something that looks different in any way here. There's of course always on Dan's side, the cargo is different, so there's lots of changes on the external cargo and on the inside too. So from his perspective, it certainly is different every time. From our perspective, it's the same Dragon on the outside. And what was the second question again?
With the manifest not working out and not having the big thrusters to control the roll rate, what is the probability of the stage return?
We actually have the same. Everything is the thrusters are the same. It's just the landing legs are not on there. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to have the landing legs on. If you land in water, you don't need them for that. You actually you want them for aerodynamics, so you're simulating it basically in the correct way. But in this case, I think actually we moved the mission ahead of time or something like that. So that's how this happened, and we didn't want to, delay this mission by put legs on. So we decided to just go ahead with that. But the thrusters are the same. In terms of probability, I would think we have a good shot of getting through. We might lose some roll control briefly, but we've also captured it again. So I think it's a fair chance. These are, I mean, the recovery or the re-entry burns and the whole flight profile is very challenging, and we got to keep in mind it's secondary mission objective. It's not the main mission.
James.
James Dean, Florida Today. Hans, in the past, SpaceX has said it was possible a crewed flight could occur as soon as 2016. Is that still the case, or are we kind of just settling everybody on 2017 at this point? And I was just also wondering how motivating it may be to try to be the first and that sort of competitive aspect as you move forward.
That might be some motivation here, yeah. And I would not. I would not move it to 2017 at this point in time, yeah, but obviously we got the contract in the last couple of days, and we are negotiating and working out the details. So I think it's a little bit early to really specify the date, but our goal is clearly to do this as soon as possible and as safe and reliable as possible too.
Okay. Irene, we'll give you the last question.
Just a real quick and it's just a curiosity. When Dragon is flying with people, does SpaceX intend to try and do a shorter rendezvous than the 2-day profile? And if so, would you practice that on any of the on any of the cargo missions first?
I don't think we would need to practice that. I mean, this is just a phasing problem basically, and we in the launch date, if there is a 24-hour phasing time, we would pick that right now, right away. So I don't think this is necessarily a problem at this point in time that needs to be practiced or trained. It's something we could do right now. It just happened to be a 48-hour at this point in time. Does that answer your question?
Well, sort of, except for, Russia recently started doing these one-day rendezvous.
Yeah, these are, I think they're even shorter than that. They're super short. Yeah. And,
so
and
why
that's different.
Why is that? Why are they able to do it in such a short period of time?
Oh, I don't think this is just a mission planning thing and having time for checkout basically. I don't think there's any particular problem going as short as possible or going as quickly as possible. I don't see any technical issues with going as short as Soyuz from that perspective.
All right. I think we will wrap things up and prepare for an exciting launch tonight. Yep. On NASA television, we'll begin rolling some video of the research and technology that will be flying up on Falcon and Dragon to the space station. That's at 12:30 a.m. on NASA TV. We'll start our live television coverage of launch at 1 a.m. Saturday, followed by a liftoff at 2:14 a.m. And between now and then, you can keep up with all the exciting facts about the mission by going to the web at www.nasa.gov/SpaceX. Thank you very much.